anyone use Photoshop?
Just a couple.
Only a few. Okay. So I'd love to show you the updated Photoshop CC. So Photoshop, for those of you who may not know, we always strive to have great new features in Photoshop and great new features in all the tools. But we realized, starting with the early days of CS6, that there are features that have been in Photoshop for years that users have said, yes, I use this, it's great, but if it only did this, or if it only had this default, or if it only was changed in this way, it would make my world so much better. So we started something at Adobe, starting with the CS6 timeframe, back when that was in development, called JDI, Just Do It. That's where engineers, on a specific day of the week, usually a Friday, were told they can't work on their features. They had to go to the board, pick a long-standing issue that a customer had, just do it. Okay, so I'll give you an example of a JDI that was in Photoshop CS6. So for example, let me just go ahead and grab my selection tool, make a selection, make a new layer, and I'm going to style that layer by using the layer effects and just creating a stroke. All right, stroke. You'll notice that the defaults for this are black and outside versus inside and so forth and so on. Well, that used to be red, inside, basically every setting that you would never use. And worse, it was every setting you'd never use, so you'd have to go in every single time and change them all. So we changed the defaults to be better, but realizing that no matter what the defaults are, they're never going to be for everyone every single time. So now we got better defaults, and when you make your change to whatever you want those to be, it's sticky. So it'll be where you left it last time. That's an example of a JDI. It's a little thing that's never going to go in a brochure, never be in a marketing document, but it's, it's one of those things that will make people that use stroke effects on their layers that much happier, because they won't have to do it manually every single time. So that's a JDI. Some JDIs, actually, are under the hood. There's no visual difference in the interface. It's just the algorithms work better. So for example, under image, all the auto things that had algorithms from the 90s have been updated. So when you use auto color, auto tone, auto contrast, auto levels, all the auto things just do a better job. There's no interface change, just better results. So one of those changes for CC is the patch tool. Starting with CS6, gave you the ability to do content aware or normal. Normal was the default, now we can do content aware. The results now should be a little better. So I want to get rid of this backpack. I'm going to make a painstaking, careful selection. It might take me a few minutes, so bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. Here we go. There we go. Perfect. Pixel perfect every time. Okay, so now that I've got that selection made, the reason I use the patch tool, I could use clone stamp, I could use the content aware fill, I could use all kinds of ways to get rid of this. But the reason I like the patch is because it gives me a preview as I drag it around as to what I'm going to get. So I can tell right away that's going to be unrealistic. There's probably not a waterfall in the middle of the ground. Be nice, but it's not there. So I could drag it around. That's probably not realistic. It's probably not too good there. But if I drag it over here where it kind of line things up a little bit better and let go, it just does it. Now, that one is not so great. Let me try one more time. I am picky. That's a little bit better. Okay, great. So now, here's the problem. Mentally, you still see a backpack. Trust me, if you just walked in, you would never know there was a backpack there. And if you close your eyes for 2 seconds and open them, you won't see a backpack anymore. But it's a mental thing, I get it. For those of you who are still stuck on, I can kind of see a little bit of a, oh, there. Then take another piece of it and randomize it a little bit more. Keep randomizing it until you don't, oh, I now see a circle. Okay, it's not there anymore. Trust me, it's gone. You would never know it was there. Okay, so that is the new content aware patch, just slightly better. Let's go back to this one. On this one, another JDI kind of thing. Let's go ahead and grab this layer. This rectangle here, by the way, JDIs can also be improvements in performance, just making things faster, better. Okay, so we're zoomed in, great performance, move this around, no lags, no delays. And I'm going to go ahead and select this layer with the selection tool. This was a shape layer. So of course we have the rectangle, rectangle with rounded corners, ellipse, so forth and so on. And the problem with these in the past, if you used a shape and then came back later and said, your customer said, ooh, can we have that with rounded corners? Ooh, can we have the corners rounded just a little bit more? That would mean delete, pull out your invoicing program, make the corners a little rounded a little bit more. The more you invoice, the less they request things. Trust me. So we would get it invoiced. They would stop at some point. But why don't we just do it so you don't have to delete? So now we have brand new live shape properties. So with live shape properties, I even get a scrubby slider, and I can scrub the corners in and round them just that much easier. And of course, thank you. Of course, if I need to be precise, I can go ahead and type in an exact measurement. Now, we can't make rounded corners in the program anymore unless we allow you to unround one of the corners. It has become the law. So with that, I'm going to unlink them, and designers would do. There you go. One corner, not rounded. You're a super designer? Two corners unrounded. Now you're super designer. Okay, we're about to take it up a notch. Now you're bad designer. We know who you are. But just showing that this is all live and I can make changes to it at any given time. So if that's what your client wants, just don't put your name on it. Okay, next. Let's close that. Is it going to keep jumping to the image I'm not ready for? Yes, it is. Okay, so in this case, we have an image. Looks okay. Nothing wrong with the image itself, but the image is low res. Now, Photoshop has been able to do upsampling almost since day one. But you were always taught, never take an image this small and try and make it bigger, because it's just going to fall apart, lose quality, lose detail, lose sharpness, lose all these things. And lately, in the last couple of years, you've seen plugins that now are touting, hey, we can take your small files and make them bigger in Photoshop or separately. And we love plugins at Adobe. Plugins make our products better. However, plugins should fill a gap that we're not doing. So that becomes an issue for us that we take seriously. So in this case, let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. And I'm going to duplicate it to a new file. Click OK. And we're going to tear that off just to separate the window. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So let's go to Image, Image Size. And this is where you would find it. By the way, another JDI for any new panels or windows. They can be resized. Next, let's do it the old-fashioned way using the bicubic smoother that's been in Photoshop for years and years and years with those old 1990s algorithms. I'm going to go ahead and make this 400% at 300 pixels per inch. So we're basically going to take something that was 1 megabyte and make it 17. Unheard of. Don't do it. Don't click OK. Yes, I'm going to. Photoshop would always do it, but the results would be what's in question. So I know you can't really tell because you're just looking at the one I just did. But look at the eyes, look at the teeth, look at the freckles, look at the hair, stray hairs or stray strands of hair. Now let's go to the other one. And in the other one, same exact thing, image, image size, 400% at 300 pixels per inch. Instead of using the old bicubic smoother that we've had for years, let's use the brand new preserve details in Photoshop CC. It's on automatic by default, so you don't have to choose these. I'm choosing this to show you before and after. All right, so now I'm going to do it on preserve details. Click OK. It'll do its thing. I'm going to move her over so we can see her, and then move this over so we can see them side by side, and look at the difference. Now, you're on a projector, so it might be hard to see, but look at the freckles, look at the eyes, look at the teeth, look at the strands of hair. We invited industry experts, photographers, and everyone to look at this feature, and they all agreed it was as good or better than any plugin you could buy. So, mission accomplished on this feature. You'll find sharpening improvements throughout Photoshop CC. I'm just showing you one of them. I'm going to come back and show you another one in a moment. Let's close out of this, and let's jump over here. Now, this next photo, this one, it's too blue. And it's a layered file. So there's only one layer that's too blue. It's the background. But all the other layers are fine. If I wanted to fix the layer that's too blue, I could go into levels, curves, and all kinds of ways of making the color adjustment. But I nowadays don't even like I can't remember the last time I've been in curves because I prefer to do those kinds of things in Camera Raw or Lightroom. The problem is that first of all I'd have to close it, save it, go find it, open it up again, don't click it, file open, find it, click on it, then choose Camera Raw in the pop-up, then open it up in Camera Raw to be able to use the white balance eyedropper, which is so much easier. And even then, it's going to try and do it to the entire image because it doesn't know about layers. It just works on the composite. So Camera Raw and Lightroom still work the exact same way they always did, but now in Photoshop CC, Camera Raw is now a filter. And this is my favorite new feature of Photoshop CC. So let's jump down to that layer. Let's first, since Camera Raw is non-destructive by nature and filters are not non-destructive by nature, let's make this non-destructive first by converting it to smart filters. Now that I've made it a smart object, let's go to our filter menu and come down to Camera Raw, filter. So when I choose that, it brings up the Camera Raw interface like it always did. And then I can go in and just grab my white balance eyedropper slider, or eyedropper, I keep calling it a slider, eyedropper, and click on anything that should be around 18% gray, white, or black. One click, done. That's why I like doing it this way as opposed to levels and curves and all the other ways. But I don't have to stop here. I'm in Camera Raw. I can do all my other Camera Raw stuff. So if my highlights are being clipped, I can adjust my highlights down a little bit to where hopefully they're not being clipped as much. I can go in and grab my graduated filter and make the sky a little bit more dramatic. Now this is going to be the opposite. Let's go ahead and turn this down a bit and make our sky a little bit better. And we can even tilt this just a little bit. Click OK, and it renders it to that layer. Because I did a smart filter first, smart object first, it is now non-destructive. I can always come in, turn that off, turn it on, or double click and get right back to my same Camera Raw settings. So if I wanted to tilt this over a little bit more to create an effect, I can. Click OK, done. So Camera Raw as a filter is one of those features in Photoshop I will use almost every day because all the things that are easier to do in Camera Raw, I'll do them in the filter versus having to do them in Camera Raw proper, and they'll be non-destructive. So that's Camera Raw as a filter. Let's continue. So with that, there's another Camera Raw feature. Now this photo, it's kind of straight, but more importantly, it's off on perspective because it would have looked great if the photographer could have stepped maybe 20 steps over to the left to take the photo. But in this case, let's go to our filter menu, Camera Raw filter, and using the lens corrections and the brand new upright feature, I can go ahead and just click auto, and it will automatically fix the straightening and perspective. Now, here's the thing about auto anything. Auto is usually one of three results. Oh my God, that's perfect. Oh my God, that's horribly bad, where's undo? Or it's just okay. This is just okay. Because it still looks like you could take 2 more steps over to the left. And unfortunately, there's no auto again, or auto 2, or auto one more time. It's just auto. But luckily, even after I've done the auto adjustment, I still have all my manual adjustments. So I can take a couple more steps over to the left, horizontally, and adjust it. And fix my scaling issue. There we go. Oh, a little too much to the left. Right about there. Click OK. What do you think? All right, speaking of sharpening. Now let me set, for those of you who are not photographers, up for this one. In order to get a shot like this with the water looking misty and silky, it's called a long exposure. Basically set your camera up on a tripod, set the camera to open a shutter for more than a few seconds, and anything that's moving is blurred. Anything that's not moving, because it's on a tripod, should be perfectly still, perfectly sharp. There are 2 things that make your photo blurry. You, or the camera moved, or the subject moved. Now, 2 years ago, we introduced we showcased a technology at Max called deblur. We still can't fix the subject moving. You're on your own if the kid runs by. There's nothing you can do about it. But if the camera shook, we have something for that. And it made its way 2 years later into Photoshop CC called shake reduction. So I can go to my filter menu, come down to sharpen, and choose shake reduction. When I choose shake reduction, it will analyze the photo and look for any camera movement. And it found some right here. Here's the blur estimation region that it's showing me. I can see what it did to fix it. I hit the letter Q, which brings up my loop. I can move my loop around, and that's before, that's after. Before, after. And I can draw out more blur estimation regions. I can put another one over here and see if it can analyze the photo and give me a better job and see movement in different areas. So before, after. Now, that's a cool example for a photographer that set up this shot and wanted perfectly sharp rocks. But what about everybody else? What about everyone that's taken this photo before? Now, here's the difference. Professional photographers take photos like this too. We delete them. Everyone else posts them on Facebook. So we've got this photo. It's not sharp. Let's take a shot at it. Sharpen, shake reduction, no hands mode. Done. Before, after. Okay, I know what you're thinking. He won't zoom in on that, will he? Before, after. Okay, shake reduction. Any Illustrator users here? Illustrator also gets big features and small improvements. So let's take a look at a small improvement. Let's go to our brushes panel, and let's take this vector object, and let's drag it into the brushes panel. And we can make it a brush. We can make it a scatter, art, or pattern brush. I'm going to make it a pattern brush. Click OK. And when I get my choice of attributes, one of the things I traditionally would have to do if I wanted to decide what the corner would look like, that would mean probably drawing something that the corner should look like. But now in CC, we have auto-generated corners. So I can go in and say, that's what I want the corners to look like. And if it meets inside, then I want them to look like this. So it will automatically, from the original object, generate those shapes for me if I want to use those. Click OK. Go back to this, and let's style it with my new brush. And of course, it's too big. Don't worry, I'm going to make it smaller. And there we go. So corners from our vector brushes. Now again, that's a minor update, minor nice little thing. Going to be kind of nice. But let's go in and take a look at something that's even better. Let's go to this artboard and zoom in on this, and we can see that that's pixels. Now we can place pixel-based images in Illustrator for a long time now. But the problem with pixels is that you could never use them as brushes before CC. I drag this in, I let go, it gives me the choice of art, scatter, or pattern. In this case, I want an art brush, and I don't want to stretch the leaves, so I'm going to say stretch between guides, and only stretch that area of the photo. Click OK, and I've now got, for the first time, a bitmap brush. And what does that mean? It means when I go to my brush tool, I can do things that are pretty cool. And you might like that, maybe. Okay, next. How many of you like typography? I'll admit it. I'm the first to admit that when it comes to typography, I can be lazy at times. So for example, we've got this word cliffs, and we know if we highlight a word, we can change the font, size, style, color, leading, tracking, kerning, just about any attribute of the letters that are selected. Great. But what happens when you want to rotate the C a little bit to the left? Uh-oh. That means select the C, cut it, paste it as an object that you can then do whatever you want. Oh, you want to do it to the L and the I and the F and the F and the S? It means cut them. You know what? It looks good the way it is. That's what I usually end up doing. That's fine. So what if we didn't have to do that anymore? What if I could still keep it as a word, but go to a brand new tool in Illustrator CC called the Touch Type tool, click on it, and I can do things like this. And notice it knows the rest of the word is there because it's moving it out of the way. So I can tilt that a little bit over to the left and pick up the next one and do a little kerning, move that over, and make this one a little skinnier or taller. Actually taller, bigger, not taller. That's taller. And skinnier. And move this one up, and move this one up, and move this one up, and tilt this one a little bit to the right. I never said it would look good. I just said I could do it. And there we go. Actually, let's move that up a little bit and make that a little skinnier. And grab the type tool, and it is still one word. And yes, you can change the letters to whatever you want, and they will maintain the attributes. So that's a little bit of Illustrator. I'm going to come back to in just a second. What about InDesign? Now, you notice InDesign, the first thing you'll notice visually is it has the new, darker user interface. Now, that user interface comes at a cost to Adobe. That typically signifies we have rewritten that program. Started with the video tools, 64-bit, new dark UI, performance, pipelines under the hood. Then it went to Photoshop. Got the new dark UI because Photoshop had been rewritten from the ground up. Then Illustrator got it in CS6, and over the last 2 to 3 years, InDesign is being worked on in the same way. Now, when we talk about rewriting these major applications, that is millions of lines of code. And let's throw something into the mix along the way called Retina support, high DPI support. So with that, InDesign has it now for the first time. So we can go in, since over a 10-year-old application, rewritten from the ground up. If I go to Interface, now go in and choose between a light interface, back to the way it was, all the way to a dark user interface, or customize it. I can dial it up to whatever I prefer. So you'll find that in the new dark user interfaces. Click OK. Now, being rewritten typically means that an application doesn't get a whole lot of new features along the way. But now with Creative Cloud, we don't have to wait another 18 to 24 months for new features to come out. So one of the new things that came out after InDesign CC was released was sync settings, just like Photoshop and Illustrator had. So the ability to sync, if we go in and take a look, your preferences, sync settings, the ability to sync your workspaces to your other computers running Creative Cloud. So that has been added to InDesign CC. Next, the font menu had to be rewritten, so you might as well make it better while you're at it. Now, of course, it did the thing I expected it to. It's showing me the name of the font. That's not new, okay. What happens, though, if I click in there and I start typing? Let's say I type the letter H. What's it going to do? Well, you don't know my font list, but it's going to jump to the first font with the letter H in my menu. Great, that's what it's always done. But what if I type B-O-L-D? The blank stare say it all. I've never tried that. I don't have a font called bold. Why would I ever type that? It makes no sense. You're going to break something. Stop it. So, bold. It's now a search. It found all my bold fonts. It found all my bold italic fonts. It found all my heavy fonts. Now, not that it just only find them, but it allows me to arrow through them to see what they would look like on my selected text. Now, you might notice that something else when I pull down the font menu, that there are these little arrows next to the fonts now. These little arrows will show the style. So your font menu doesn't have to be 5 miles long. It can now just be 3 miles long, because we're not showing you every single style as an option until you twirl it down. The other thing you'll notice is that there's a little star next to each one. Some are dark, some are not. If it's dark, that means I click to make it a favorite. And now I can show my favorite fonts. Because we realize that no matter how many hundreds or thousands of fonts you say you must have for your work, that you're still using 10, 20, or 30 that you always use every single day. So now you don't have to keep it a secret. Just make them your favorites. Click favorites, and you see your favorites. And of course, yes, they still work as you arrow down to show all your favorites on that highlighted type. Now, let me unclick the favorites for a minute. You'll notice that there are some fonts at the top of the list for some reason, because they're recently used. Once I use it, it's at the top of the list, and I can just quickly jump back to it, and that's application-wide. Now, the first thing people always ask in the Q&A, so let me stop you here. Did all of these font improvements make it into Photoshop and Illustrator and all the other programs? No. Most of them made it in Illustrator. Photoshop doesn't have them yet. But you're on Creative Cloud, so you get them when and if they're ever available. Now the next thing is, then we'll finish up here in just a moment. Going pretty much on time. Let's go ahead and select this long, complicated URL that no one's going to remember. So let's go ahead and cut it out. But I want them to just scan my printed brochure with their device using the QR code. Before, I would just go to my web browser, Google QR code generator, go to one of the sites, paste in my URL, generate the QR code, see that I have to pay for it, go to the next site in the list, paste in the URL, see that it's free, download the QR code, can't find it or it's low resolution or whatever, start again, so forth and so on. But if you could just go up to your object menu, generate QR code built right in. So I can make a QR code that's plain text that people just see the text that I type in here when they scan. I could make it a text message that's sent to a specific phone number with a specific message from the person who's scanning it, or an email, same thing, from the person that's scanning it, or a contact. I can put in contact information so when they scan it, they can add it to their contacts without having to type it in. Or a web hyperlink. So when I paste this in, I can choose the color and click OK, and it will generate the QR code. Now, the question I also get on that all the time, well, does Photoshop have that? Does Illustrator have that? You don't need it, because once you do it in InDesign, it's vector. You can copy and paste it into any other application and scale it to whatever size you need it to be. Now, before we leave that URL goes nowhere. So let's edit that QR code, edit QR code, and let's type in a site that I know does exist, like terrywhite.com. Click OK, and it was a simpler URL, so it makes a simpler looking code. And I can now, let's see if this works here. Let's bring up a device. And let's move my phone over. And let's go to my scanner. Bring up the scanner. The scanner is live, so it's showing you guys. And let's point it at the screen now. Wait for it to focus. I heard the little beep, and now it's bringing up my website on my phone to show that the code actually worked. Now, while we're at it, let's go and take a look at this document we were just on and go to this. Now, in this Illustrator document, I've got a banner here, and this banner is in a color I'm not crazy about, but I am horrible at picking out colors. I know what I like when I see it. I'm that customer. So let's do something different. Let's bring back up the device, and let's get out of the scanning app, and let's go to my Adobe folder. And in my Adobe folder, I'm going to launch the new Cooler app. And when I launch Adobe Cooler, it brings up, since I'm on a device that has a camera, it brings up the camera. And the camera can sample colors room around me. So if I see some colors I like, I can lock it in. Once I lock it in, I can choose a name for that theme. So we'll call it NYC. And I can make it public if I want, or just simply save it. Now that it's been saved, let's go ahead and go to, let's move this out of the way for a moment. Go to Illustrator's Cooler panel and refresh. When I refresh, there is my NYC theme that happened in the background in the cloud without me having to think about it. And now I can just go in and select a color that's very close, a color that's not so good, or one of these. And let's go ahead and actually make sure we got this object selected. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, hot pink, that's really cool. I kind of like that one better or this one better, but you choose your colors you want. So, cooler built in to Illustrator as a panel and syncing with the app on your iPhone.